various fireworks are starting to light up on a crowded street in Yanzhou City. The intersection is teeming with famous guests who lined up in front of the elite building. In front of the entrance to the building, of course, there is a guard who lets people through the list. A passing lady wonders what kind of event is happening on this day. Then her young man replies that today marks the 30th anniversary of a large organization in the city, which is called Lin Group. He also reports that all the people who attend this party are the most influential people of Yanzhou City. Enraged security guards take the street away from passers-by, people who look too much inside the banquet hall. At this time, a young man who arrived here on his motorcycle is left right in front of the building. He holds a piece of paper with an address in his hand. Checking the address again and again, he notices that he has arrived at the right address and at the right time. This man's name is Lin Zheng Xuan. Suddenly, a crowd of huge thugs appears behind the man, looking like a street mafia. One of them, who looks like the leader of this gang, glares at Lin Zheng. However, the very next second he bows to the man and calls him a master. From somewhere, the leader takes out a small cup and proclaims that this is the gift that Lin Zheng ordered. He also reports that they all had to search every antique shop in town to find him. After hearing the word master, Lin Zheng starts rolling up one sleeve. After that, he hits the leader in the face and furiously tells him that he has repeatedly repeated not to call him that way. From such a sharp blow, everyone who stood together with the leader was stunned with horror. Then Lin Zheng warns the leader that they should not drive such a luxurious car. He once again warns the leader and tells them not to call him master in public. At this moment, all the hooligans kneel down and apologize to Lin Zheng. They proclaim that they understand everything and also inform that they will not do so in the future. Lin Zheng takes a handkerchief out of his pocket and wipes his hand. Along the way, the man says that he doesn't want the Lin family to know his real identity. The Lin family has been living in Yanzhou for 30 years. They built the foundation of Changchun. His heirs are extraordinary, and their descendants are all dragons and phoenixes. Today there will be a banquet in honor of the birthday of the elderly lady Zhang Lin. Lin Zheng enters the banquet hall, simultaneously holding a gift box in which there is a cup brought by the leader. The hostess at the entrance begins to announce the list of guests and their gifts brought, as well as wishes. According to him, the CEO of the Fenhai Group wishes the elderly lady Lin good luck and sends her a gold-encrusted commemorative plaque. The chairman of the board of Kaiyuan, Mr. Wang Fushan, wished the elderly lady a long life and sent a couple of different jewelry made of precious stones and jade. And the chairman of the Jiangnan Leather Society wishes the elderly lady the same blessing as the East China Sea and the Sacred Sea in Nanshan. It is the turn to proclaim the name and gift of Lin Zheng. The hostess solemnly says Lin Zheng's name, but when he tells what gift he came with, everyone who is in the hall starts to turn around. The guests begin to whisper and laugh behind the man's back. They wonder if this is the same man who entered Lin a month ago. Some say they even heard that the elderly Mrs. Lin did not let him into the Lin family home last month. The guests as one proclaim that the Lin family is celebrating its 30th birthday and the birthday of the elderly Mrs. Lin. But their son-in-law Lin Zheng Xuan sent such an absurd gift. Near this crowd, his young wife Lin Qinghan is standing and listening to them. People next to her begin to whisper that to give such a gorgeous beauty as Lin Qinghan for such an unnamed scavenger is real nonsense. In a very sad frame of mind, Lin Qinghan stands near the guests and blushes all over with every word they throw at her and her husband. Now furious, she goes to Lin Zheng Xuan and asks him why he didn't buy something decent with the money she gave. However, Lin Zheng Xuan replies without any shame that this porcelain bowl was handed down in the early days of the King Diang dynasty. He also says the bowl is worth at least $60 million. The man reports that, fortunately, he got it all for $100,000. Suddenly, one of the heirs of the Lin family, a man named Lin Qingjun, comes out of the crowd of guests. He tells his son-in-law that there is a limit even for such nonsense. He proclaims that everyone can buy such junk for 20 yuan on an antique street. Xuan mockingly reports that he did not think that he was such a fool that he could not even choose a gift properly. He asks everyone to take a look at the gift he has prepared for his grandmother. Two men enter the banquet hall, holding in their hands a huge jasper evergreen tree in the same huge pot. Lin Qingjun presents his gift to Lin's grandmother and wishes the Lin family eternal life. From such a gift, the elderly lady Lin is delighted and immediately thanks Lin Qingjun. To soften the situation and cover up the shame of her stupid husband a little, Lin Qinghan approaches her grandmother and promises that she will immediately prepare a suitable gift for her. But her exasperated grandmother does not want to hear her granddaughter. She tells her that it's not necessary and that even if they don't give her anything, it doesn't matter much to the Lin family. The elderly lady Lin takes Lin Qingjun's hand and they walk away. An elderly lady tells him to accompany her, because their banquet will begin very soon. As she leaves, she turns to Qinghwan and announces that the main table is already full, and that she and her husband do not have to join her. The woman throws a contemptuous look and goes to accompany her grandson. The girl remains on the red carpet with her hands down. The guests around her begin to whisper that it's a pity that Lin Dodger's daughter herself can't even sit at the main table. They start laughing and proclaim that her father only knows how to drink his life away, and that it's not surprising that his daughter married a dummy. People really don't understand why the daughter of such a noble family married such a nameless guy like Zheng Xuan. Qinghwan begins to cry bitterly right in front of the whole hall and Zheng Xuan. Her husband sees the whole farce. He recalls that for him, joining the Lin family was just for the sake of remaining inconspicuous, and that he was completely indifferent to what others thought of him. Zheng Xuan, in truth, thought that his wife did not care about others either, but after seeing her crying bitterly, he came to the conclusion that this was not the case. It turned out that Qinghwan really cares what her family thinks about her. At this time, in the banquet table, the elderly Mrs. Lin sharply punches the table. In a rage, she proclaims that it's time to stop talking nonsense. She proclaims that Zhu Group is developing rapidly, and that she has already surpassed Lin Group. She asks the younger sons of the Lin family sitting in front of her what they will do next and how, in this case, she will transfer this family into their hands. Lin Qingjun, who is sitting next to him, begins to calm down the elderly lady. He says that today is their family's holiday and that she should not be angry because she has an injury. However, the elderly lady seems to be even more angry. They exclaim that even if something happens to her, she will be fine. She asks Lin Qingjun if he thinks she will live another couple of years. Niz repeatedly asks the juniors about which of them will take the first step forward to facilitate cooperation with Zhu Group. She says that if at least someone can do it, then she will reward them with anything. However, an awkward silence flies by at the table at this moment. Lin Qingjun at this moment thinks that the Zhu Group is led by the ancestor of the second generation, and that he will not give them a single chance. He comes to the conclusion that this offer is not so attractive for his prospects. Then the elderly lady repeatedly asks them that really no one would dare to respond to her assignment. A familiar voice comes out of the crowd. It turns out to be Zheng Xuan, who at the same moment raised the hand of his upset wife. He loudly replies to the lady that Qinghwan will talk to Zhu Group about cooperation. However, Qinghwan herself does not understand what her husband is saying. Lin Zheng Xuan was once called the King of Hell. The entire underworld obeyed his orders. All the mafiosi worshipped in front of him. Zheng Xuan was offered his loyalty in return for his protection, and half of the world's wealth was also in his hands. However, Zheng Xuan refused this life, as well as the privileges of a gangster, and left there after he met his betrothed Qinghwan. For this reason, no one in the Lin family knows Zheng Xuan's real identity and what was going on in his back in distant times. Standing in the banquet hall and holding the hand of his dumbfounded wife, he thinks that he never wanted to communicate much with the Lin family. However, he comes to the conclusion that he will not allow them to bully his wife. Qinghwan looks at her husband and quietly asks him about what he just said. Zheng Xuan answers her softly. If she succeeds, she is highly likely to receive the long-awaited approval of the Lin family and her grandmother. Then it dawns on Qinghwan that he, her husband, is right and sane in many ways. At this moment, she wonders if her grandmother considers her a worthless granddaughter. She immediately decides that Qinghwan will show and prove to her that she is no worse than others. She lets go of her husband's hand and walks with her head held high to the banquet table where her grandmother is sitting. Bending down a little, she asks Ms. Lin to give her permission to discuss cooperation with Zhu Group. Lin Qingjun, who is sitting next to him, immediately begins to throw mud at Qinghwan. He makes a disdainful expression and asks Qinghwan about what makes her think that she deserves to negotiate with the CEO of Zhu Group. Lin Qingjun proclaims that she will embarrass herself if she leaves now. However, he warns that it's not that he looks down on her at all, but what she can do to successfully arrange negotiations with the CEO of the company Zhu. He asks her if she even knows how to run the company. The very prospect that Qinghwan can climb the career ladder and at the same time gain the respect of the Lin family irritates Lin Qingjun. Qinghwan lowers his head again and becomes despondent. However, her grandmother replies that she is ready to hand over the task to Qinghwan. Taken aback by such a statement, Lin Qingjun immediately gets up from the table and loudly proclaims that this is the wrong choice. Lin Qingjun exclaims that it's not that they don't have a chance for successful negotiations, but he says that they should use this chance to their advantage. The man enviously informs them that they cannot allow Qinghwan to do it, because even today she insulted the Lin family with her trick. At this moment, the elderly lady Lin thinks a little. As soon as she opens her mouth, Zheng Xuan immediately interrupts her. He proclaims that if Qinghan cannot successfully accompany the negotiations, then he will give up the opportunity to inherit the property of the Lin family. At this moment, Lin Qingjun is elated by Zheng Xuan's antics. He immediately thinks that this is his chance to get closer to the Lin family inheritance. Then he asks Lin Qinghan if she agrees with what her husband just said. Lin Qingjun proclaims that if her negotiations lie down, then she and her husband will not have any rights to the family property. Lin Zheng Xuan has no problem asking his wife to agree to such conditions. However, Qinghan, nervous, asks Zheng Xuan not to talk nonsense at such a serious moment. Then her grandmother proclaims that since her husband has agreed to such conditions, she gives her advice to do everything possible for successful negotiations. However, she asks not to blame her for not caring about her feelings if it doesn't work out. At this moment, Zheng Xuan completely loses his temper and approaches the elderly lady with very serious intentions. Qinghan, holding his hand, asks him to stop. Exactly looking at her eyes, he says to the elderly Mrs. Lin. He throws a sharp phrase, "We'll wait and see." Then, holding Qinghuan's hand, they solemnly leave the banquet hall. Looking at this, people in the audience begin to exclaim that Qinghan is in a very pitiful state, because this man, meaning her husband, is really the biggest failure in her life. They say that he is worthless and that even if they come and beg them and their child to leave an inheritance, they will not be pitied. One by one, the guests burst out laughing and are shocked by such a stupid son-in-law as Zheng Xuan. The crowd as one believes that they should at least move their brains a little, since cooperation with Zhu Group is a very important event. Everyone starts laughing, but Grandma Lin sighs heavily and really comes to a stupor. After a while, an old-looking man enters the solemn banquet hall. He goes straight to Mrs. Lin and proclaims that he is still as energetic as he remembers her. It turns out to be her longtime brother named Gu Lao. They greet each other politely, and then Ms. Lin asks him about what brought him to her. But before she can fully utter it, she immediately hears admiring and shocked exclamations from Gu Lao. He asks him about what is the matter with his admiring face. Gu Lao immediately approaches Mrs. Lin's antique cup, given by Zheng Xuan and ridiculed by society. He asks the lady, "Isn't this a genuine time cup of the early Qing dynasty?" Without being indignant, Mrs. Lin answers him that perhaps Brother Gu was mistaken, as she says that this cup is just a gift from a violent junior, who, in her opinion, is not able to distinguish even good from evil. However, Gu Lao immediately replies to her that what she just said is complete nonsense and nonsense. He asks the elderly lady if she doubts his many years of experience in the field of antiques. Having made a displeased face and studied the tiny bowl a little with his eyes, he takes it in his hands. After a few minutes, he informs me that this gift is a real treasure compared to the others. The next day, Zheng Xuan calmly walked through the products at the local market. He was looking at local carrots and was going to buy them at a discount when his secretary came to him by car. Immediately getting out of the car, he proclaims that Miss Anna, the imperial princess of the ancient kingdom, hopes to meet Zheng Xuan. He also informs her that her plans include stopping by Yanzhou. Not taking this request for a meeting seriously, Zheng Xuan proclaims that he is already married. However, he offers the secretary to see how far she can go. He also exclaims to the secretary that his wife should go to Zhu Group to discuss cooperation and asks him to send someone to settle this matter. Bowing as a sign of politeness and respect, the secretary replies that he will prepare everything for his time. Leaving, he also warns the secretary that they should not openly meet like this. He proclaims that all this will be done for security purposes and that he wants to keep his secret in front of the Lin family. At this moment, Zheng Xuan puts on a biker helmet and is about to leave, but his secretary stopped. The secretary says that it is unnecessary for him to do such broad tin for the sake of the mistress. However, Zheng Xuan replies to him that they will not understand this. He exclaims that Qinghan is the whole world to him. Then his secretary freezes in place, not understanding what to answer to such an exclamation. He gets on a motorcycle and leaves the market under the summer wind. When he leaves, he thinks that there is nothing in the world that he has not done for Qinghan. This also has its own meaning, because before that, Zheng Xuan was on the street with his mother. At the age of 5, she helped him and his mother survive the harsh winter. Qinghan, as a little girl, brought Zheng Xuan and her mother warm clothes in winter weather. And at the age of 7, Qinghan gratuitously saved Zheng Xuan when he gratuitously came down with food poisoning. This time, the girl helped him with money for Zheng Xuan's treatment. When Zheng Xuan was 10, he went to the Lin family charity school, and his mother got a job there as a cleaner. For a while, from a hard life came in a good direction. But when Zheng Xuan turned 14, His mother was diagnosed with a malignant tumor. In order not to be an extra burden for Zheng Xuan, his mother jumped off the roof of a high-rise building. During these years, Zheng Xuan was left all alone in poverty. In the posthumous note, she asked him to look after the Lin family. Zheng Xuan begins to prepare a special soup intended for King Huan. Recently, he discovered that someone had given King Huan a strange potion. Zheng Xuan comes to the conclusion that all he can do to save her is to add medicine to her soup every day. He adds a special medicine to the soup and finishes cooking the soup. After pouring it into the dishes, he goes straight to King Huan's room. He knocks on the door and informs King Huan that her soup is cooked. At this moment, King Huan comes out of the room with a tired look, holding a huge work folder in his hands. A little staggering and almost falling, she passes by Zheng Xuan. He immediately resorts to it. She holds her hands so that she does not fall off her feet right on the floor. Zheng Xuan suggests that King Huan go to Zhu's company after a short rest because she hasn't slept all night. He thinks her wife needs a little break before an important meeting. However, King Huan quickly removes his hand from Zheng Xuan's hand and proclaims that she is fine. She asks him not to worry about her. However, then Zheng Xuan tells her that walking around in such a state, and even more so going to work, is an extremely unsafe occupation. But Zheng Xuan still sees that his wife is determined and that she will not stay to rest. Then he asks her to drink only the soup he has prepared first. He also proclaims that he will give her a ride so that she can make her appointment just in time. This time, King Huan agrees and starts drinking soup. After drinking it, she immediately notices that it has become much better and easier for her to walk, as well as to think. After that, she asks Zheng Xuan to get ready faster, so that she can go to Zhu's company faster, respectively. Seeing his wife's relief, Zheng Xuan immediately gets excited and goes to get ready. Then they go together by bike to Zhu group. Arriving there, Zheng Xuan informs King Huan about this. However, the first time she does not hear him, because on the way she accidentally falls asleep on Zheng Xuan's shoulder. Seeing that she is sleeping sweetly, Zheng Xuan thinks that King Huan worked hard all night for the success of these negotiations. He also thinks that all her severity is shattered and then disappears when she falls asleep so sweetly in his shoulders. When King Huan feels someone's gaze, she immediately wakes up and immediately jumps off Zheng Xuan's back. Blushing a little, she begins to be embarrassed by the fact that she just fell asleep on his shoulder. King Huan immediately jumps off the bike and with a serious tone asks Zheng Xuan to wait for her at the same place. He enthusiastically agrees to wait for her, it seems even for an eternity. Accompanying her with a glance, he thinks that success is guaranteed for King Huan, since he is sure that he has prepared everything for this procedure. In good spirits and high spirits, they part in front of the building. However, half an hour later, Zheng Xuan sees King Huan leaving the building. He also sees that she is crying bitterly again at this time. He immediately runs to her and asks her about what happened to her. This time, an enraged King Huan throws all the documents right in Zheng Xuan's face and proclaims that it's all his fault, and that everything went down the drain because he made such a ridiculous promise to the elderly Lady Lin. She proclaims that otherwise no one could have been so much mistaken in their guesses. The leaves of the documents, like leaves in autumn order, begin to fall and scatter around Zheng Xuan. He himself freezes on the spot and does not understand what happened in that place that hurt his wife so much. She quickly gets into the nearest taxi and immediately leaves the Zhu group companies. Zheng Xuan is still in the same place. It remains to be guessed what happened in that place and who dared to spoil his wife's mood so much. He remembers that he seemed to have prepared everything in advance so that her meeting would go well. He immediately calls his secretary, immediately asks him to find out who and what made his wife so unhappy. The man immediately asks to find out everything. The secretary immediately logs into his computer and finds out that Zhu Hu, the CEO of Zhu's company, was intimidating King Huan with the negotiation situation. According to him, he told her to come alone to the motel and spend the night with him. He tells Zheng Xuan all this. The man even breaks his phone out of anger. Infuriated by such an outburst from the director of Zhu companies, he wonders how he dared to say such a thing to his precious wife. Intending to kill him already, he wants Zhu Hu to prepare his coffin better, because it may very soon be useful for its use. At this time, Zhu Hu, CEO of Zhu Group, is sitting on the tower of the building, calmly sipping his coffee. Sitting alone, he proclaims that Lin Qinghan has no choice but to spend the night with him, because this is a billion-dollar project that Lin Group, of course, cannot lose. Zhu Hu gratuitously thinks that King Huan will soon come running to him herself to beg for a contract. And while he is sitting alone, he decides to do something else. Sitting at the computer, he is just about to turn on some obscene materials when someone breaks into the door. The door is unlocked and out of fear Zhu Hu spills his hot coffee towards his groin. He immediately shouts furiously. Irritated, he looks at the door and with a face red with anger asks the name of the one who dared to enter his office. He also wonders who dared to enter his office in such a rude way. This turns out to be a pretty evil Lin Zheng Xuan too. Upon entering, Zheng Xuan introduces himself as the one who will kill Zhu Group right now. The next second, Zheng Xuan runs to Zhu's desk and takes him by the head and hits him right on the table. His head. He takes away both his coffee cup and the computer standing next to it. Everything from the table goes to the floor, and Zhu himself flies straight to the wall of his office. He moves his head against the wall, after which he bleeds. Taken aback by such impudence, Zhu puts his hand on his forehead so as not to lose even more blood. The enraged director asks him if Zheng Xuan knows who is standing in front of him. Thus, he intends to show that it is dangerous to touch him. However, the well-informed Zheng Xuan teases the director and asks him what he is mumbling under his breath. He proclaims that he can't hear because of the noise and hits the table with his fist, after which the table shatters. Seeing this, Zhu realizes that the guy standing in front of him is very strong and that if he hits him, there will be no living place left of him. Realizing the situation and his position in it, he decides to indulge Zheng Xuan and quickly sit on his knees. Further on, in the same shameful pose, he, pleading, asks him about what he needs from him. Making the world's scariest grimace in the world, Zheng Xuan proclaims that director Zhu has only two options depending on his decision. He suggests that he either sign a contract with Lin Qingjun or die in the same place with his company. Zhu doesn't take Zheng Xuan's threat very seriously, and only gets to his feet and proclaims that he may have been sent by the Lin family. After finally getting up, he asks Zheng Xuan if he would be okay if he just killed him and left. Deciding that he was bribed by the Lin family, he asks him if he is sure that the money given to him for his murder by the Lin family is really worth himself and his life. Zheng Xuan warns that with the second outcome of events, not only he will be destroyed, but his so-called Zhu Group company will also fail. Again, not taking his words seriously, director Zhu bursts into laughter and proclaims that Zheng Xuan's fists are quite strong, but not to the extent that he could destroy an entire company. Without listening to his words to the end, Zheng Xuan picks up the phone and calls someone. He points the main finger at Zhu, sit and be silent. He picks up the phone and announces to the person behind it that if he does not call back in 50 seconds, he is instructed to level the Zhu Corporation to the ground. Then he says he's hanging up. So, the report, consisting of 50 seconds, begins. At first, Zhu shows strong resistance and proclaims that Zheng Xuan is just showing off in front of him. The director kicks his chair where he used to sit and exclaims that he is just trying to make a big shot of himself. 20 seconds pass in his resistances. Then, still resisting, he threatens Zheng Xuan that if he waits a bit, he will kill him with his own hands. There are only 5 seconds left before his final answer, so his time is running out. Zhu looks at Zheng Xuan with a kind of expectant and ferocious gaze. He tells him that now he really wants to watch him destroy his corporation. Seeing that nothing is happening, he ironically asks what happened to his threats. Suddenly his phone rings. Zhu goes to the phone and is told bad news. It turns out that the shares of Zhu Group companies were suppressed by a mysterious consortium. The staff reports that the company is losing hundreds of millions every second. This news makes Zhu sweat profusely on his face. On the face, it gets worse. The director is informed that 3 of Zhu's partners want to stop cooperation. Despite the losses, the company's servers were attacked by an influx of hackers. The staff of Zhu Group reports that they were left helpless. There is another call, already from the father of the CEO of Zhu Group. So, there are a couple of calls from the managers of the Zhu Group company. He picks up another phone and the frantic cry of his disgruntled father immediately goes into his ears. He screams into his son's ears and begins to pour dirt on his son, frankly speaking, calling him stupid and useless. His father also informs him that several of his acquaintances are advising him to flee the country, and that Zhu has crossed the road to someone who should not have. The company is gradually sinking, which, of course, terrifies the CEO. Terrified, he realizes that this is the work of Zheng Xuan. He points his finger at Zheng Xuan and proclaims that he is to blame for everything. Smiling maliciously, Zheng Xuan exclaims that he gave him 2 options to choose from, which led him to such consequences. He repeatedly asks him what kind of answer he will give him this time. Hopeless, Zhu eventually agrees to his terms. Falling to his knees, he exclaims that he is ready to do anything for him, as long as he leaves their company alive. Then Zheng Xuan says again that he wants Zhu to meet with Lin Qingjun tomorrow, apologizing, and he gave her compensation in considerable amounts. From such conditions, the director, of course, burns badly, but from hopelessness, he still agrees to it. A day later, a meeting of the Lin family takes place in the Yingzhou Center, where once again Lin Qingjun begins to dig into Qinghan. He shouts at Qinghan and claims that they know about the refusal of Zhu Group. Just as he starts yelling at her and accusing her of failing with the contract, the main door of their office opens and a crowd of men in suits enters. These turn out to be the main people of the Zhu Group company. This understanding is growing from every side with every second. The silence is interrupted by a very angry Lin Qingjun, who immediately asks them why they came. CEO Zhu, whose father also arrived with him, and he was clearly not in a very good mood. So much so that in the very next second after that very cancer question, he immediately beat his son in front of everyone. And it wasn't that Zhu was unharmed. He hadn't even recovered from the wounds that Zheng Xuan had left him after that interesting encounter. A very angry father starts beating his son and orders him to immediately kneel down and beg Qinghan for forgiveness. He calls him a nasty animal. Writhing convulsively, Zhu kneels down and holds out the contract in tears. He proclaims that he is sincerely sorry that he is her in such a stupid way, and that he himself is just another fool. He also says that after the official signing of the contract, the land that is indicated on this document will be completely at her disposal. The man says that he does not need this land and that he just hopes that in the future their companies will cooperate with each other and that in the future this will not happen again. Who begs Qinghan for forgiveness. Quietly bowing his head, he exclaims that if she does not forgive him, then this man, or rather his furious father standing behind him, will just take and kill him. Zhu is literally begging her to sign the contract. All the members of the Lin family present in that office do not understand how and why Zhu did this shameful appearance. Qinghan immediately realizes that he was clearly pushed into this by someone. She begins to think about the mysterious person of this man. However, without drawing any conclusions from this, she decides that first she will just sign a contract, and then she will find the right person. She picks up the contract and announces that she accepts it in Zhu's apology. Still kneeling, the man immediately thanks Qinghan. Then the father of CEO Zhu apologizes to Qinghan for wasting time on them and also exclaims that they will not bother her anymore. After seeing all this, the elderly lady Lin asks Lin Qingjun about who it could be that Qinghan is being asked for forgiveness in this way. The next second, she bursts out laughing and suggests that maybe Qinghan has aces up their sleeves that they don't know about. Henceforth, old lady Lin announces that the Lin group will be sponsored, and that Qinghan has successfully negotiated. She walks up to her granddaughter and puts her hands on her shoulder. She exclaims joyfully that she has indeed kept her promise. The elderly Mrs. Lin praises her granddaughter for her successful work. She also warns her that if she needs help, she can safely turn to her for help. An enthusiastic Qinghan thanks her grandmother. After the meeting, Grandma Lin and Lin Qingjun leave the building together. Immediately, Lin Qingjun proclaims that a certain Zheng family may have taken something against the Zhu family for the sake of Qinghan's well-being. He also says that Chen Chu from the Zheng family has had feelings for Qinghan for many years and that the Zheng family itself loves her. Xuan exclaims that perhaps the Zhu family should have noticed it. However, the elderly lady immediately leaves him. She says that she already has a husband. Making a snide face, Xuan says that everything is simple. The man informs the elderly lady that Qinghan just needs to divorce Zhang Xuan. The next day, Qinghan goes to a posh restaurant and is not alone. It is also an important fact that it was not her own husband who called her. Her father, despite the fact that she was married, suggested that she go on a blind date. She found this proposal very strange, but she agreed anyway. Zhang Xuan went along with her. He's waiting for her in front of the restaurant. Approaching her husband, she takes his hand and she looks at him in embarrassment. At this moment, Qinghan remembers that he knows Chen Chu's character too well, and that her husband is much better than him in every sense. Seeing her embarrassed face and deciding that she has become softer with him, Zhang Xuan begins to pull his hands to her hips. Embarrassed, Qinghan blushes even more and tells the man to take his hands away. She warns him that when they come in, they should not talk nonsense and that they need to be more gentle with each other. Qinghan confusedly says that she was just rehearsing their intimacy and nothing more. Zhang Xuan is also embarrassed by these words and immediately removes his hands. He playfully proclaims that he will complete her task in front of the Qing family. They enter the restaurant and sit down at the main table, where the Chen family and Qinghuan's father are present. Zhang Xuan and Qinghuan greet Lin's father, but he doesn't even look at them. However, he reports that Qinghuan, that he and Zheng Chu are about the same age. Qinghuan begins to understand what he is driving at, but still does not pay attention to it. Here the son of the Chen family named Zheng Chu begins his speech. He asks Qinghuan a question about whether this person, pointing to Zhang Xuan, is her partner. He also snidely says that she really doesn't know what's good for her. And the mother of the Chen family whispers in her father's ear that the young man Qinghwan does not inspire confidence from the first time and that their son Zheng Chu is 100 times better than him. Seeing this pressure, Qinghwan proclaims that this is her true choice and that she is not interested in someone else's regarding her choice. However, Zheng Xuan does not seem to be touched by this and he is sitting next to his wife with a sarcastic smile. Qinghwan's father calls the waiter and, in order not to open a dispute between the families, suggests that they order something from the food first. Thus, he pushes their disputes to later. The waiter comes and distributes the menu. And also this time, in order to disgrace Zheng Xuan, Zheng Chu picks up the menu and gives it to Zheng Xuan with the words that he can order whatever he wants and that he will definitely pay the bill. However, under his seemingly good intentions, an insidious plan is hiding. Zheng Chu comes to the conclusion in his mind that Zheng Xuan does not know foreign languages, and the menu that was brought to him was in French. He is already anticipating Zheng Xuan's disgrace with a malicious grin. However, the man calmly picks up the menu and proclaims that he takes a baguette, fatty liver, and red wine. Upon hearing this, Zheng Chu immediately bursts into loud laughter and proclaims that this dish is called foie gras. He suggests to the man not to pretend that he does not know French cuisine. The guy also exclaims that French cuisine has a very reverent attitude to etiquette and customs. He offers to see what kind of healthy food he ordered for himself. After bringing the dishes, Zheng Chu's discontent grows. This time he's picking on the fruit. He tells Zheng Xuan that according to the etiquette of French cuisine it is impossible to order before the main course and that in France someone like him, who does not respect French etiquette, would immediately be thrown out of the restaurant. Zheng Xuan does not succumb to provocations and sits quietly with a serene smile. However, Qinghwan cannot stand such sharp statements about her husband and, raising her voice, proclaims that Zheng Chu should not shout so much. Hearing this, Zheng Xuan decides to break into the conversation. He reports that firstly, foie gras is actually duck liver made in the French style, and that it is also called fatty liver. And secondly, apricot, that is, fruit, in this situation goes as a snack. The man also informs that foie gras should be eaten on a baguette, and so the person will be sated. Upon hearing this, Zheng Chu points to a baguette with fatty liver and proclaims that such eating is unacceptable. He also tells Zheng Xuan that even if he is stupid and poor, his imagination is excellent. However, not all of them. Still not taking his words seriously, the man points his finger at the next table, where the same dish is eaten in the same way as Zheng Xuan said earlier. Seeing Chen Chu's dumbfounded and disgraced face, he asks him with a malicious smile about who turned out to be a stupid idiot this time. Blushing from what he saw, Chen Chu looks dumbfounded at the next table, simultaneously realizing that it was not Zheng Xuan who disgraced himself, and he himself. With a serene smile, Zheng Xuan proclaims that the real subtleties of French cuisine are not just some combination of ingredients. He says it's not just some food and snacks at someone's suggestion. After making a small sandwich, he holds a piece of it to Qinghwan's mouth and asks her to try it. She doesn't refuse. The next second she realizes that the taste of the sandwich is simply divine. She tells him that the sandwich came out really tasty. From her look, it becomes clear that she has now fallen in love with Zheng Xuan even more. Seeing the chemistry between them, Zheng Chu angrily comes to the conclusion that he really knows French cuisine and culture. Of course, this infuriates him. Zheng Xuan, adding fuel to the fire, informs him that what he said before is true. However, according to him, people who blindly follow the rules, without their full understanding, are hypocrites. Unable to withstand all this parade of shame and humiliation, the Qing family gets up and leaves at once, and Zheng Xuan still looks at them with the same serene smile. Qinghwan's father also leaves for the family. He and Zheng Xuan remain alone, after which both burst out laughing. She asks him if he did it on purpose. He replies to her that, however, it was a wonderful performance. Qinghwan asks him where he learned it from and proclaims that she doesn't remember him talking about it in front of her. He answers her that she did not learn it on purpose, but remembered this information when he worked as a waiter in a restaurant. Then Qinghwan asks him about why he doesn't work for her company. She exclaims that his talent would suit them well and that he could build a public relationship with their company. However, Zheng Xuan immediately refuses this offer and says that his only duty is to be a faithful husband and stay at home. In his thoughts, he thinks that it is better for him to stay at home and cook soup than to go to work. He also understands that if he needs money, he will get it for a couple of calls without any problems. And yet, it does not work to convince his wife that his decision is correct, and she begins to throw a tantrum. Qinghwan says that being an adult man can't find a job for himself, that sitting at home, he won't achieve anything in life. The man asks her not to be angry and yet eventually agrees to her deal. The next day he joins a company with a salary of 2,000 a month. When he is sitting in a cafe next to work in the morning, a red-haired girl suddenly approaches him. Immediately approaching him, she asks him if he is the beggar trash Zheng Xuan. A little surprised by such impudence, he slowly raises his eyes to the girl. Further, she says that it is clear to look at him in order to determine that he is such. She exclaims that he is not worthy of King Huan. It turns out to be a friend of King Huan, whose name is Fang Yi. She proclaims that after seeing him, she lost her appetite to eat anything. Unable to stand it, the man gets up from the table and proclaims that he does not care about her words as long as she is King Huan's girlfriend. Deciding not to continue this meaningless dialogue, the man begins to leave. However, the girl shouts after him and warns him, telling him not to delude himself that he is King Huan's husband. She says that if he doesn't get it, then she will repeat her words again and throw him out of here. She also tells him that King Huan is already losing his reputation by being around him. This time it starts. After enduring this, Zheng Xuan stops and with a ferocious look tells her not to insult him and his wife. He begins to approach her closer and closer, after which the girl begins to get scared. A company manager named Hu Kang immediately approaches and asks Zheng Xuan about what he is doing here. The man takes him by the shoulders and immediately throws him aside. He asks the girl if she is alright and that if Zheng Xuan dared to touch her, he will immediately throw him out of here. The girl says that if he is new to the team, then they are obliged to teach him how to communicate with clients. The disgruntled girl leaves to be accompanied by the manager. Hu Kang will immediately know who this man standing in front of him is. He proclaims that this is the useless son-in-law who recently joined the Lin family. He tells the girl not to worry and that he will definitely take care of him. Zheng Xuan's face wrinkles at such words. Immediately after her departure, Hu Kang runs into Zheng Xuan with a task. He tells him that he does not like spendthrifters from the company, and that he gives him a day to take the company's money from Shanlong. He gives him one notebook, and then sends him away. However, Zheng Xuan first asks him about where he can get the address and free travel from the company, which should be provided for such trips. Hu Kang immediately shouts at him, saying that Zheng Xuan is asking for such an outrageous offer on the first day, and that he has become extremely arrogant. At this moment, Zheng Xuan immediately sits down on the table in front of him and informs the man that in this case he will not go anywhere. Hu Kang, in a rage, asks him if the man will definitely not go to Shanlong. Then Zheng Xuan asks him, leave him alone, and he goes to his phone, which further irritates his boss. He asks Hu Kang, leave him alone. In his smartphone, he dials his secretary's number and informs him that he is currently in the company of his wife. He also tells the secretary on the phone that he needs to immediately send people to Shanlong so that the company's money will be returned. Of course, Hu Kang hears this call and immediately asks him who he thinks he is, that he can just send people to Shanlong. Then Zheng Xuan in response asks him if he is in a hurry. The man offers the manager to sit down and wait a little. The manager finally loses his temper and loudly proclaims that he will lose with his face if the money does not come from Shanlong. Hu Kang calls Zheng Xuan a fool and proclaims that if it was so easy to get them to bring money, they would have already got it themselves. With their loud screams, he gathers a crowd around him that begins to admire their disagreement. A company security guard approaches the manager and says that Zheng Xuan is a fool, and that this family is one of the most influential, with which it is not worth spoiling relations. Zheng Xuan starts the reverse report from 3 to 1, and when he finishes, his people walk in the door. At first glance, these people look like typical mafiosi. They scare the crowd and the manager standing in front of Zheng Xuan. The crowd and Hu Kang are shocked by such an unexpected appearance. Hu Kang and others, seeing these formidable people, immediately begin to apologize and shun. One man from the gang, pushing away his glasses, asks him about where Zheng Xuan is. Then he points at him with his finger where he is sitting serenely. When he points out to a man what is expensive, he anticipates that now Zheng Xuan will get what he deserves and that Shanlong's guys have come here to deal with him once and for all. He thinks that he will look at the shame of the Lin family and is already breaking into a malicious smile. The man immediately approaches Zheng Xuan and loudly asks him if he ordered them to provide money from Shanlong. Sitting in the same serene pose, Zheng Xuan answers in the affirmative, and moreover, he asks him if the man has any problems with this. The mafia man immediately calls all his friends to him and informs them that the man sitting in front of them is the same Zheng Xuan. Hu Kang immediately gets a malicious smile from their menacing faces and comes to the conclusion that now Zheng Xuan will get what he deserves. However, it was not there. The gang immediately shouts and asks for an apology from Zheng Xuan. 30 people immediately kneel down and ask Zheng Xuan for forgiveness. They cry out that they just want to live. Hu Kaiyan's jaw drops from such an outburst. He doesn't understand what's going on here. The gang leader with tears in his eyes hands Zheng Xuan a check and informs him that there are 100 million there. He even asks him to count every single coin. He picks up the receipt and immediately hands it to Hu Kaiyan. He proclaims that his work today is over. Taking the check in his hands, Hu Kaiyan sees that he did not just return the money, but forced them to return it in double size. The seemingly kneeling gangster sweetly asks Zheng Xuan if he could let them go now to be magnanimous. Zheng Xuan answers in the affirmative and informs them that he is free. Upon hearing this, they immediately rush out of the cafe and a crowd zag him. Zheng Xuan also leaves behind them. Hu Kaiyan stands in the middle of the hall and thinks that this guy dyed his nose on his first day at work. Of course, this makes him furious and comes to the conclusion that he will not let him work here again. One of the employees gives an order to the crowd that no one in this place is allowed to talk about what happened today. He announces that he will personally close Shan Lung's account. Meanwhile, Zheng Xuan comes to the office and sits down in his seat. With a bored look, he is waiting for the end of his shift, when suddenly he is fired and sent home. Zheng Xuan is not upset about this, but only looks at him with a bored look and rolls his eyes. They give him a commission for his work today. He is offered to take them and walk away. Zheng Xuan proclaims that he is not worried about work and says that he is more interested in how they will explain his dismissal to their boss. The employee replies to him that the boss himself can't stand him and that therefore nothing will happen if he secretly gets rid of him. Zheng Xuan gathers his things and starts to leave. When he leaves, he thinks that even though this is a small company, there is not a single reliable person for him here whom he would trust. In the evening, he leaves the company and is just going home when a car passes by him. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices the same girlfriend of his wife who was rude to him only in the morning. After a little thought, he notices that her appearance was extremely unhealthy and the person next to her did not inspire confidence. He comes to the conclusion that she is a close person to King Huan and that therefore he will not be able to let anything bad happen to her. He thinks that King Huan will be very upset if he lets this happen. Therefore, he rushes after the car at the speed of light, simultaneously knocking down passers-by. He comes to the estate villa for the car. The man who was next to Fang puts her on the bed and asks his friend if everything is ready for shooting. His friend replies that this is the best camera that is generally fashionable to find in stores. He assures that their shooting will be fine. It becomes clear from the girl's face and behavior that she was given a strong medicine that dulled all her feelings. The kidnapper's name is Qingjun. He proclaims that he can no longer wait. Then he begins to undress, and the employee standing behind the camera begins to blush from what process he will now contemplate. However, Zheng Xuan's foot flies into his face the next second. The blow pierces him in the head and he flies to the ground. Seeing a formidable face, Qingjun asks Zheng Xuan to spare him. He tries to justify himself by saying that they are making a deal with a girl. Without listening to him to the end, he immediately hits him on the neck and calls him a dirty brat. When he finally deals with both of them, he takes off his jacket and covers Fanny with it. He takes a handkerchief out of his pocket and wipes the sweat of the unconscious girl with it. When he reaches out to her, she suddenly hugs him. The girl proclaims that she is hot and that she is waiting for help from Zheng Xuan. A blushing Zheng Xuan falls into a stupor and does not understand how to proceed further. After thinking a little, he immediately pushes her face away from his. He gets up and proclaims that he doesn't even know where she lives. He comes to the conclusion that in this case he will just take her home to King Huan. 20 minutes later, they find themselves in the Lin family's villa. He puts her on the bed and thinks that fortunately, he managed to drag her through the window, because there were a lot of people downstairs who would definitely make a noise because of her friend and husband. He decides that he should immediately find an opportunity to tell and inform King Huan about this. A few printers, Fangyi's eyes wonder about where she is. Meanwhile, in the lower part of the villa, there is a heated discussion of Lin Qinghan's personal life. The entire Lin family gathers and discusses her position and her husband's position. Her aunt proclaims that there is nothing to discuss and that King Huan just needs to divorce Zheng Xuan and remarry Zheng Chu. After hearing this, King Huan asks her how she can say such a thing. She proclaims that Zheng Xuan is not the same as before and that now he is motivated and ready to work. Then Lin Qingjun, who is sitting next to her, bursts into loud laughter and asks King Huan that her standards are really so low that her choice fell on such a fool as Zheng Xuan. He also says that maybe one day he will want to work with beggars and beg for alms. At this moment, his aunt calls him and tells Lin Qingjun that it was too rude on his part. However, at the end she adds that his words really make sense to be. King Huan at this moment thinks that her husband would never have done such a thing, and that he is not at all the kind of person her family sees him as. The girl begins to get angry at her family, but at this moment, their heated discussion is stopped by the elderly Lady Lin. She gets bored watching the whole concert that her family arranged, and she asks Qinghwan to just tell her the truth. He tells her that this is a really good opportunity for their family to build good connections in this. She reports that it is beneficial not only to them. Finally, she asks if Qinghwan loves Zheng Xuan at all. She, having thought a little, just begins to answer, but her friend's voice interrupts her speech. From the stairs comes the screams of a girl who loudly calls Zheng Xuan a monster. The whole family immediately turns around at the screams that arose on top. Fanny comes out of the stairs with a torn red dress and asks Zheng Xuan about how he could have done this to her. In tears, she immediately runs to Qinghwan. Zheng Xuan himself is horrified by the uproar that she has made downstairs. He runs out right after her. Qinghwan immediately asks her about what happened to her. Still choking in tears, the girl reports that today she fainted in her garage and that when she woke up, she saw Zheng Xuan hanging right over her. Zheng Xuan also appears in the sight of the family and everyone, of course, immediately understands what's going on. They look at him dumbfounded. Then the elderly Lady Lin asks Fanny if she is telling the truth. The girl replies that she has nothing to lie about on such serious topics. Qinghwan immediately becomes enraged and at the same moment hits Zheng Xuan in the face. She calls the guy an animal. Distressed by this, Zheng Xuan sadly asks his wife if she does not believe him. Lin Qinghan takes advantage of the moment and exclaims that Zheng Xuan is thus shaming their Lin family. He swings and proclaims that this time he will finally kill his Fanny. However, this time Zheng Xuan does not let himself be offended and immediately hits Lin Qinghan, after which he flies to the floor. He screams and asks Zheng Xuan about how he dared to throw him on the floor. At this moment, the elderly Lady Lin breaks down and orders Zheng Xuan to be taken away from here. Finally, Zheng Xuan looks at Qinghwan and thinks that even after so many years, there is not even a drop of trust in her eyes for him. When he realizes this, he decides to leave himself and along the way asks Qinghwan that if she does not believe in him, then what is the point of staying in such a family? Distressed by the incident, he begins to slowly leave the lower hall of the Lin family villa. Qinghwan looks after him with sad eyes. Getting up from his seat, Lin Qinghan shouts after the man that it serves him right. He exclaims that he always knew that Zheng Xuan is not a good guy. He proclaims that their Lin family has raised him to his feet, and asks him how he could do such shameful things. Qinghwan goes to his girlfriend to comfort her. She hugs Fanny and exclaims that she will find the one who really did it. She asks her not to worry. She informs her that if it is true to be Zheng Xuan, then she will divorce him immediately. Then Fanny starts shouting towards her friend, asking her if she just saw what happened right in front of her eyes. She also asks her if she doesn't believe her own friend. She exclaims that even in such a situation she is protecting her husband. Qinghwan freezes on the spot, not understanding what she has to say to calm her friend. At this moment, their confusion is interrupted by a man who ran into the house. He searches for Qinghwan with his eyes and finally finds her. It turns out to be a subordinate employee of Fan Yu, a man named Xiao Lai. Worried, the girls immediately ask the man the reason for his appearance. He informs her and Fang Yu that he received the camera from Ms. Qinghwan's husband. Later, at the villa of Lin Qinghan, Lin Qinghan is the first and official name given at birth, and Lin Qinghuan is a middle name in East Asian countries, the name given in ancient times when a person enters the age of marriage. So, the employee Fanny asks to see Qinghwan and Fanny on what was depicted in the camera that Zheng Xuan gave him. He proclaims that she was found at Cheng Jun's villa. After opening the film from the camera, they see that the owner of the villa with a malicious smile asks the operator to shoot him and her partner clearly and clearly. He also talked about how he needed to see all the details of the shooting clearly later. Seeing this, Qinghwan and Fang Yi are horrified. After that, a man appears on the video, who beats Cheng Jun despite his pleas. The camera clearly shows that it was Zheng Xuan. After their fight, it becomes clear that Zheng Xuan took off his jacket and, closing it, Fang Yi dragged her to safety. Seeing this picture, Qinghwan almost breaks his heart from a sense of his own stupidity. She immediately regrets that she didn't listen to Zheng Xuan. Tears begin to form on her cheeks. She immediately gets up from her seat and, without looking back, runs straight to the door. Along the way, she thinks that she didn't even bother to ask Zheng Xuan himself about what happened at that moment. Shedding tears, she runs to the exit. After leaving the villa, she sees that Zheng Xuan is standing right in front of her, upset. Straining a little from running, she immediately calls him to her. He turns around and sees his wife. She proclaims that now she knows the whole truth about that unpleasant situation and asks him not to leave. When he sees her, he puts his hand on his face and asks her how she is going to compensate him for the fact that his face hurts so much. Then Qinghwan comes up to him in a tight and tells him that she will pay all his medical expenses and proclaims that she will do anything for him. Zheng Xuan blushes and of course forgives her. The next day, Zheng Xuan goes to the vegetable market, where he picks up food for the house. Suddenly, his secretary calls him and announces that they have information that some are hunting Qinghwan. After his trip to the market, the man immediately goes to his wife's company. Seeing Zheng Xuan from afar, Qinghwan wonders what her husband is doing in such a place. Zheng Xuan comes closer to Qinghwan and says that he doesn't have a job right now. Consequently, the man has no money and therefore he asks his wife for some money. He says he needs some. Zheng Xuan only asks for 500 yuan. He sees that she went out with a strange woman. The man assumes that this is probably her new bodyguard. From this, he concludes that this only means that the Lin family is aware of the impending dangers. At this time, Qinghwan is thinking about something else entirely. She puts her hand on her forehead and thinks that she even helped him find a job. However, I did not assume that he would quit on the first day. She begins to regret that she told him that she would do anything for him. She takes out money from her pocket and gives it to Zheng Xuan. She proclaims that this money is for him and asks him not to wear formal clothes when he comes to her company like that. Zheng Xuan thanks his wife and asks her if she is heading home. He asks her to take him with her. However, Qinghwan immediately refuses on the pretext that there is not enough room for him in the car. Then the woman standing next to them offers them a ride in her car, to which Zheng Xuan is completely happy, and Qinghwan, on the contrary, is indignant. On the way, Zheng Xuan thanks the woman and asks her if she is a new employee in his wife's company. He also asks her why he hasn't seen her before. The woman begins to be annoyed by Zheng Xuan's behavior, but she patiently waits for the end of the trip. At one point, she abruptly stops the car, after which Zheng Xuan almost flies out of the passenger seat. Qinghwan immediately asks her about the reason for her stopping. Looking up, they see that there is a truck right in front of them. Qinghwan proclaims that their villa is right ahead and wonders why their road is so blocked. Then the bodyguard informs Qinghwan that something is wrong here. She removes her seatbelts to get out of the car. She tells Qinghwan to sit in the car and not get out. The woman gets out of the car, after which a crowd of men also get out of the truck. They look like typical thugs. One of them, seeing a woman, tells her to step aside. He exclaims that they need a girl who is sitting in her car. All the robbers have knives with them. The bodyguard replies to the bandit that she will not allow Qinghwan to be stolen so brazenly. Then one of them, brandishing a knife, goes straight to the bodyguard and exclaims that she does not blame him for rudeness. However, his knife maneuver doesn't work on her, and she dodges the blow. She takes his hand and immediately throws him on the dome of the car, right on the part where Qinghwan is sitting. Seeing this, Qinghwan covers his face with his hand. She turns around to call Zheng Xuan and have him call the police. However, when she turns her head, she sees that her husband is not there. She immediately wonders where her husband could be going at such a dangerous, crucial moment. It turns out that Zheng Xuan sneaked away from the noise and snuck into their family's villa. After opening the door, he enters the hall and asks him about what is the point of getting here after all the noise he made outside. He orders a person to show his true face. Then a man dressed entirely in black descends from the stairs of the second floor. He also wears a black hat. As he descends, he proclaims that Zheng Xuan has noticed his presence. He proclaims that he, it turns out, has at least some surveillance skills. Completely angry, Zheng Xuan asks the man about how he dared to make a mess of his gender. He proclaims that he has ruined the clean floor, which he just washed clean today. In a rage, he exclaims that the bastard got everything dirty while sneaking into the villa. Then the man replies to him that it is clear that Zheng Xuan is really a person who takes care of his family. According to him, even at the moment when he is about to die, he takes care of such a small thing as cleaning the floor. When he says this, he lights a cigarette along the way. Zheng Xuan immediately orders the man to put out his cigarette, as his wife can't stand the smoke from him. Then the mysterious man asks Zheng Xuan about what will happen if he doesn't do it. Zheng Xuan menacingly replies to him that in this case he will die right in his hands. At this moment, the man also gets angry and is the first to raise his fist at Zheng Xuan with the words "accept your death." Zheng Xuan then proclaims that this attack speed is too slow to overwhelm him. He immediately grabs the man's hand and breaks both of his hands. The man immediately falls to his knees in a dumbfounded state. At this moment, Zheng Xuan sees a tattoo on his neck. From this he draws some conclusions and asks the mysterious man if he is the person who is one of the 30 members of the Dark Knight. There is no answer. Then Zheng Xuan asks him about who hired him. This time, the man replies that since Zheng Xuan knows about the Dark Knight, it should be clear that even if they die, they will never reveal the identity of the employer. Deciding to go to extreme measures, Zheng Xuan pulls out a gold ring from his pocket and hands it to the man. He asks him if he knows what kind of ring it is. Then the man recognizes this ring and proclaims that it is holy. He immediately recognizes the great Zheng Xuan. Zheng Xuan asks the same question again. He proclaims that if he does not tell him who his employer is, he will kill all his 12 brothers and sisters. Deciding not to hesitate with the answer and without hesitation, the man replies that his employer's surname is Suhi. He also says that he is their Yangshi's man. Immediately after his answer, the man is beaten on the head. He suffocates, faints, and immediately dies. Meanwhile, having dealt with all the thugs, Qinghwan and her bodyguard finally reach the villa. They both menacingly enter the hall where Zheng Xuan is cleaning up after that very situation. Zheng Xuan greets them with joy. Zheng Xuan approaches his wife and offers her the services of his fan. The man proclaims that he will help her cool down, not that in response there is a cold get lost. Qinghwan sit down on the chair. She puts her hand on her forehead and thinks that she used to assume that her husband had changed. However, she definitely thinks that she did not expect that he would just run away so cowardly when her life is in such danger. She sighs heavily. Then Zheng Xuan comes up to her with a basin full of water. With a serene smile on his face, he proclaims that his wife has worked hard and asks her to help her wash her feet. The evil wife asks him what the hell he's doing. Then Zheng Xuan gradually starts taking off her slippers. Then he puts her feet in the basin. The fact is that there are still hidden traces of poison in Qinghwan's body that need to be treated with the 6 massages. With his help, she is finally recovering. However, Zheng Xuan decides that he still needs to do the same massage on a regular basis. He takes his wife's feet and puts them in a basin. Then the blushing Qinghwan asks not to touch her feet and proclaims that it is not decent, so a stranger is present in the house. Deciding that his wife misunderstood him, he warns her that he is a decent man and that he will not do anything to her. He picks up Qinghwan's hall leg again and proclaims that she just had a shock from being attacked. He says the massage will help her cope with the stress she has received. From the fact that she is being held by her legs, the girl involuntarily begins to blush thicker and thicker. Blushing even more deeply, Qinghwan waits for the end of his relaxing massage. During the process, she remembers that in the last few days she has been sleeping well, and, moreover, getting a good night's sleep. She makes the assumption that this is possible thanks to the promise that Zheng Xuan gave her. She is even thicker, blushing, admiring how her husband massages and can her legs. After a few minutes, she tells him that she feels better now. Qinghwan suggests that he pour out the water in the basin. The girl also tells him that her old friend will soon come to her villa. She offers her husband to check out on the street, thereby hinting that she wants to relax with her friend from his company. Zheng Xuan doesn't look a bit jealous or sad. He just gets up and takes a basin to pour out the water. Still with the same serene smile, he asks her which friend she is talking about. Only then does Qinghwan descend into reality and begin to get annoyed again. She replies to Zheng Xuan that it's not his concern. This time she briefly and menacingly proclaims that he needs to leave, not to return until noon. Not at all upset, he playfully asks her what will happen if he misses her ahead of time. Thus, Zheng Xuan annoys his wife even more. She throws a nearby pillow at him and menacingly tells him to get lost. This does not anger the guy at all, as much as it amuses. He perceives everything as fun and, not at all angry, goes to pour water out of the basin. Of course, Zheng Xuan follows his wife's request and goes outside. It goes to the Qinghwan charitable community. Seeing such a familiar building, memories of bygone years come to his mind. Many years ago, Zheng Xuan and his mom were homeless, but thanks to the help of a certain girl named Dean, they were able to survive in such difficult circumstances. He comes to the conclusion that if Qinghwan wants to have fun with his friends, then he can go visit the same orphan children as he once was. After buying a couple of toys on the way, he goes straight to the shelter. As soon as a man appears on the horizon of the passage, a crowd of children runs to him, which, of course, he is incredibly happy about. He asks the children to take their time, as he assures them that they have enough toys for everyone. The children take a couple of toys from his hands and go on playing. After seeing this scene, Zheng Xuan regains memories of his childhood. Still looking at them with his serene smile, he remembers that when he was a little boy, He was always happy that someone brought him new toys or gifts to the shelter. When the man was looking at the boys, a little girl runs to him and pulls his t-shirt. With a sweet expression on her face, she asks him if he can play a little with her. The little girl's name is Yin Yin. She is also an orphan. Zheng Xuan, of course, agrees to play with her and picks her up in his arms. He's playing with her like she's flying. Yin Yin is absolutely delighted with playing with Zheng Xuan. During their game, rich-looking people in black Mercedes and solid clothes appear right on the threshold of the shelter. By their appearance, it becomes clear that the woman standing in the middle is most likely the boss, and there are 2 bodyguards standing next to her. After getting out of the cars, they descend and go straight inside the shelter. Seeing people, the joyful baby Yin Yin suddenly becomes serious. Pointing her finger at them, she proclaims that they are bad people. She also says that these are the bad people who want to destroy Yin Yin's house. Looking to the side, Zheng Xuan is perplexed by what the little girl just said. He lowers Yin Yin to the ground and begins to look at them with interest. Zheng Xuan asks Yin Yin if they really want to demolish the shelter, and then the girl nods. After leaving her, Zheng Xuan immediately resorts to the garden to the owners of the shelter. He calls a certain girl named King and immediately asks her if the shelter is in order. Immediately realizing the whole situation, Ding Kui asks Zheng Xuan not to worry about it. She announces that she will try to talk to them again. Next to her in the gazebo is her old acquaintance named Qin Ru. Ding Kui informs Zheng Xuan that this group of people is from some resort company, and that the entire local district was purchased by them. She also reports that officials have asked them to build a new charity house anew before starting construction. The elderly Mrs. Ding Kui, with tears in her eyes, proclaims that, however, this company is doing unfair business and that she has built a house next to a chemical plant. She asks Zheng Xuan about how she can take these poor orphans there. She also asks him if he remembers her stories about a certain good person who will finance a charity house for free. Zheng Xuan replies to her that he has always been interested in what kind of person this can be. Then the elderly lady Ding Kui answers him that this person is Lady Qin Ru. She reports that over the past 5 years she has helped the charity shelter a lot. However, she proclaims that specifically in this case she is helpless. Despite this, Qin Ru goes to deal with them by all means. Then Zheng Xuan jumps out of his seat and proclaims that he will deal with them himself. The elderly Mrs. Dean tells him that this is a useless option. However, Zheng Xuan convinces her that he should at least try. Meanwhile, Miss Qin begins to deal with these people. The bodyguards tell her that the life and death of the orphans of this orphanage are not important to their acquaintances. He asks them to blame themselves for what they were born for. Enraged, Qin Ru yells at them and says they are complete bastards. She asks them how they dare to say such terrible things about these poor children. He proclaims that sooner or later she will be punished for it. Then they answer that they will prepare official documents in a couple of days and that during this time the charity house will definitely be demolished. However, at this moment Zheng Xuan's answer comes to him that he is not thinking about demolishing the house. With a stick in his hands, he goes straight to them. She proclaims that if they don't leave right now, he will beat them himself. He's waving his wand right in front of them. They begin to hide behind each other and get scared of the stick. One by one, the rich start running to the car and getting into it. Along the way, they shout that sooner or later their shelter will be demolished to hell. Thus, they leave noisily. Zheng Xuan lowers his battle bat and approaches Qin Ru. He asks her if she's okay. The stunned girl looks at Zheng Xuan with bulging eyes.